Okay, here's another report. Things that are bothering me in the debate, things I forgot to say the other night. I've heard a lot on YouTube, I've heard a lot of complaints. One of them had to do about the debates and the way they're being run. I've noticed that they aren't giving anybody any time to talk. It's like they have their swampers they want in, and they don't want any dark horses to come get in there. And the swampers are Biden, Kamala Harris, and Buttigieg. Those people seem to be in the bed with the swamp. And they don't want anyone in there that's any dark horses coming in there that can gain a lot of steam. And it looks like, I think that's why they won't let anyone talk. That's why they shut them down so quick, and that's why they want 10 people in the next one, and they only have it one night. There's been a big problem, and Ocasio-Cortez brought this out, that you don't hear anything about global warming on there. Global warming, that's one thing that the public needs to be hearing about. They certainly have a right to talk about it, and they shut that out. But it has to do with those corporates running the debate. They're what Kim Iverson pointed out on YouTube, they're running the narrative. They don't want people to hear about campaign finance reform. They don't want anyone to hear about that. And then I got another complaint. There was another complaint on YouTube that Yang, they're shutting him up. Okay, there's several good reasons they'd be shutting up Yang. He's the one that brought out how to circumvent the campaign finance, ugly campaign finance corruption that the Time Warner Corporation that owns CNN and the Comcast and Disney, and they're all involved in campaign finance corruption. They don't want it shut down, and they own all the media. There's been a big pact between them. And that's why you don't hear anything about global warming on there. They're shut. It used to be, that you'd hear all this stuff on the Ralph Nader, on the Phil Donahue show. But ever since the corporates took over the media, you don't hear that anymore. And Phil Donahue got on MSNBC and they fired him. Ever since the corporates took over the media, everybody's been shut up. But the only place you could ever hear anything about stuff like that was if the candidates brought it out. Well, look what's happened. They've taken over the debate. Those corporates are running the debate. There's not only that, it's one thing that if they just broadcast it. But they aren't just broadcasting it. It's like Kim Iverson pointed out, they're controlling the narrative. So now we don't even have our freedom with the press and the media, even in the debates. Even the candidates can't talk anymore. Like I say, Ike Eisenhower was able to talk about the military-industrial complex. Tulsi Gabbard talks about it, they knock her off. Okay, well, anyway, I have a report here that, let's see, Kim Iverson brought out some points which created a big brainstorm in my head, which I think needs to be brought out, and which I want the public to know about. Whether, how many people are going to listen to me, I don't know. I'm hoping maybe with just a few, maybe some of them will relay it or something. But anyway, Kim Iverson, let's see, they're controlling the narrative on the debate, and she also brought out that the corporations that own CNN and CNN, NBC, ABC are not your friend. They're an adversary. And they're your enemy, essentially. They're the enemy of the people. They're the enemy of the working class. They're the enemy of everybody that votes except for the 1%. And they were involved in a pact with the Disney Corporation, which owns ABC. But that's the first thing. We know several things about the corporates, the stuff they're doing, they've done previously. They're involved in a pact with the Disney Corporation, which owns ABC, which refused to report on the Mexican race, that repeatedly cross the border and rack up crimes and crime numbers. There were several reports on Fox News, and they refused to report any of them. So it appears there's a pact going on between the corporates that own the media. The Disney Corporation profits from open borders. We know that, and Bernie Sanders brought that out. That stands to reason that Time Warner Corporation also profits from cheap labor and open borders. We know that closing the borders raises wages. That means the Spanish race doesn't come in, your wages go up. That means the Mexicans that are working here legally, their wages go up. So keeping them open gives profits to the Disney Corporation that owns ABC to the detriment of everyone else. We know that border security has 97% support among the public. But, the corporations that own the media don't care. And they run the debate, don't want you to hear it. Fox News brought out that before the corporates took over the media, when ABC, NBC, and CBS were independently owned, or even when GE ran NBC, they didn't control it much. Yeah, the CEO of General Electric didn't bother him an awful lot. He didn't try to shut anybody up. So you had very much freestanding companies at that point, freestanding media, independent corporations. And there's no conflict of interest, very little. If there was ever a bill pending, and this is what someone brought out on Fox News, brought to my attention, that when ABC, NBC, and CBS were independent corporations, and independent, no conflicts of interest, no barriers anywhere, no impediments to the First Amendment. If there was ever a bill pending in the government that 97% supported, or a strong majority, any strong majority, and one party or the other stonewalled, if the bill had widespread support, the media always asked the opposition party to explain why they were stonewalling and what's your plan, what's your compromise. And that put pressure on the opposing party to give in, so that Congress would work right. Well, there's strong evidence that all the corporates profit off, let's see, no, I didn't. But anyway, that's one thing they haven't done. Ever since the corporates were taken over, they don't ask. None of the networks have ever asked Nancy Pelosi, what's your plan to solve the border problem? They don't talk about it. And Pelosi would be under pressure to compromise and solve the border crisis and raise wages for the Mexicans that are here legally. And that involves quite a few Mexicans. That involves quite a few black people, quite a few people in poverty, and people like me, and white people like me, a lot of other people. The big share of the populace, 97% that wants closed borders. They could get it done, but the media won't talk to Pelosi. And they always solve problems like this with Congress before the corporates took over the media. We know that much. We know that Kamala Harris is receiving large sums of campaign money from the Time Warner Corporation, who owns CNN. And it appears that they stand to profit from open borders. We know that Kamala Harris strongly supports open borders. We know that Tulsi Gabbard supports, so Kamala Harris is their one. That's who they want in there. If they're giving her campaign money, that's their main candidate. That's the one they want in. And we know that Tulsi Gabbard supports closed borders, border security, and plan on stopping the separation of parents and children. If Kamala received large sums of money, of campaign money from Time Warner Corporation, she is probably the candidate they support to the detriment of everyone else. We also know that Tulsi Gabbard blew Kamala Harris to Texas in the last debate, and leaves one to speculate that's probably why Tulsi is not in the next debate. It has the appearance that the DNC is getting way too cozy and getting too much campaign money from the Time Warner Corporation that owns CNN, and is too cozy with the DNC and is controlling the narrative of the debate, like Kim Iverson said, and probably more than just the narrative, if they knocked off Tulsi Gabbard. Iverson brought this out. CNN is not your friend, and probably why Tulsi Gabbard was knocked out of the debates. Okay, that's what stuff I didn't say last time that I missed. But anyway, what I'm going to say next, let's see, I also want to talk about Mitch McConnell. Okay, they had a big protest outside of Mitch McConnell's house. And it bothers me a little bit that they don't get to the bottom. I don't believe in protesting out in front of people's houses. If you have a protest, aren't you supposed to go to the mayor, and get permission? I don't know. I don't think they were legal, but I don't support that. I don't try to tell people to do that. But it bothered me that when you looked at their signs, nobody gets what's wrong with Mitch McConnell. People aren't getting it yet. Okay, Mitch McConnell is the bad plug. He's detrimental. He's like a rattlesnake in the living room of the country. He's a rattlesnake in our living room. He's the bad plug. He's the kingpin of campaign finance corruption. He's why the country doesn't work. He's like when your car doesn't, Congress doesn't run. It's like when your car doesn't run. You know, as a bad plug. He's the bad plug. He needs to be out the door. And someone tried to, and it has to do with the gun lobby. You know, right now, like I say, back in the 60s, Barry Goldwater's a Republican, and he was talking about we need to get rid of AK-47s. You don't need an AK-47 to shoot a deer. If you need an AK-47 to shoot a deer, you need to go out and work on your hunting skills. We got the same, you know, which means that back then, you know, we didn't have the polarization we have now. And the point I'm trying to make is that the Mitch McConnell is that right now we have a whole lot of support. The overwhelming majority supports banning assault weapons. I personally don't. You know, I think if you want to go out in the desert and play with an AK-47, you ought to have a right to do that. But I do support majority rule, and I hate corruption. And I kind of hate corruption more than I want most gun rights, though. I wouldn't want to see take very many more than that. But that's where your trouble is. It's Mitch McConnell. That's where the trouble is. And Ashley Judd tried to knock him off, you know, a long time ago. Okay, Kentucky's in a bad state right now. It's having a lot of trouble, and it's a real good time for someone to get in there and try to knock off McConnell. Someone tried a long time ago, Ashley Judd, and he's the kingpin of campaign finance corruption, and he ran this real vicious negative attack against her, and she got out. But you know, my understanding is if you try to pick up a rattlesnake and it bites you, that's all the more reason you need to get rid of it. And that's why Ashley Judd should have got back in there and knocked him off. The more he said about her mental health and her mental state and everything else, that's all the more reason you need to get rid of him. Okay, what else? Okay, now he also screwed Obama out as Supreme Court appointee, but he argued that, well, we haven't put a president that was going out of office and never appointed anybody since the 1800s, and they pointed out how in the 1990s the opposing party helped a president, I don't remember who it was, appoint a Supreme Court person, and the opposing party helped him get him approved in time. So Mitch McConnell was lying about it. Well, the reason Mitch McConnell was jumping up and down when he stopped Obama is because you had 4 people in there that supported campaign finance reform, and he's the kingpin of campaign finance corruption. He's the main one. He's the proponent of it. You know, he lives and breathes corruption. That's his big thing. And so he knew if there was one more in there, they'd shut his corruption down. And that's why he was jumping up and down. That's why he tried so hard to keep Obama's appointee out of there. But I didn't see a word about this on anybody's billboards they were holding up, you know, when they were protesting. But it bothers me that many people don't get it yet. But anyway, okay, and I guess that's the last thing I had to say. But the other thing, Ocasio-Cortez, and pointing out at the time, you know, it's the time Warner Corporation's control the debates. That's why you don't hear anything about global warming and dealing with global warming and other things, and the other things that the corporate support. And that's all the more reason we need to get in there and get right to the corporate, right to the DNC, tell them to get out of bed with Time Warner. Okay, thanks for watching.